Hey guys, welcome to this powerful training on how to step into spontaneous healing by discovering the highest power that you have within you. If you'll hold tight, we're going to learn 3 different things inside of this training. Some of the highlights are, number 1, all healing is a restoration of truth. And I'm going to expound on what that means in just a minute. But hold tight because this is going to get really, really profound and powerful for you. Number 2, you're also going to learn a lot about your soul self. This is the authenticity within you. It's the part of you that is the same yesterday, today, and forever. It's basically the infinite self. If you were to die today, this is the part of you that would stay living and conscious and aware. And so it's important that you understand what that part of you is and how to access this part of you, because that part of you understands how you got sick in the first place and what to do about it. So the farther away from your soul self, the true soul self that you wander, the sicker, the fatter, and the more depressed you become. And then number 3, you're also going to understand that every thought, every feeling and emotion and belief that you hold within the container of your body has biological consequences. And then also, we're going to talk quite a bit about how you, my friend, are more powerful than you've ever been led to believe. Stick around all the way to the end of this session because I'm going to be sharing with you some really powerful exercises and tools and techniques that you can use in your daily life to kind of help you to integrate some of this knowledge that we're going to be learning today. So let's just jump right into the training. This training actually comes from a live interview that I did with Des and Jen on their radio program called Empowered. And Empowered was featured on Voice America, one of the leading live internet talk radio platforms in the country right now. And so I'm just going to turn the time over to that interview, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Now, here are Des and Jen.
Hey everyone, welcome to Empowered. This is Desiree Allridge. I'm so excited to be on here with my co-host Jennifer Buss and Janet Thurgood. I had the privilege of speaking with Janet over the phone a few weeks ago, and she is, let me tell you, an incredible individual who has overcome so much. Janet is a quantum healing practitioner and a soul restoration coach. She has been able to heal herself from multiple chronic illnesses, and I am so excited to have her on here and to teach all of you guys how she was able to do that. I think so many times we're given diagnoses and we think that it has to be a life sentence, but she is here to tell you otherwise. Welcome, Janet.
Hey, thanks for having me on here. This is really exciting to get to hang with you ladies. And, you know, it's fun to get to mastermind with other women who are like-minded. So thank you.
We're excited to have you, Janet. This is Jen, and I myself have been on a healing journey and have learned ways to turn things around that doctors like to tell us are going to be forever. And our show is all about empowering. And for me, that has been a huge way to empower myself and my family, and knowing that we can really, truly take charge of our health, turn things around, find different avenues. There's so many different layers and so many different things that we can do for ourselves. And it's super empowering. So we're excited to have you on our show and be able to talk a little bit more about all of that. I'm excited to learn about the quantum healing modality. That's going to be exciting and fun. But first of all, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself, like maybe some of your hobbies, your family life, your profession, talents, just some things to let us and our listeners get to know a little bit more about you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm originally born and raised in Canada, southern Alberta area. I met my sweetheart in Utah. We have 7 children, and we now reside in Idaho. Some of the things I love to do is I'm a singer and a songwriter. That's my therapy. I like to garden. I am a lifelong learner. I am addicted to courses and classes and books, and I just can't get enough of that stuff. But as a quantum healing practitioner, one of the things that I think I discovered about myself on that journey was that I kind of have this uncanny ability to see people in their own divinity. Like I don't know how to describe it, but I just have this ability of being able to see past the physical crust of the body and see things that maybe they don't see in themselves. And sometimes that is a blessing and a curse, because most people deny their divinity, their power that's within them, and it's really frustrating to see that. But so what I do now with that is I just help empower women and sometimes men to heal their bodies and become the best version of themselves. And that's kind of what I feel like I was put here to do, just because I spent so much of my adult life trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I love that. And you've got a big family, so you get to do a little bit of juggling, it sounds like, and a balance and like figuring out how to do what you do and take care of your kids, and that's all exciting. It's empowering, I think, for women out there to see that we can do this, that we can.
Yeah. Well, see, my kids are very independent because I spent most of their lives in a coma, basically on the floor. So They learned how to fix their own lunches and get themselves off to school. And it wasn't because I taught them. It was just by default,
Right.
And I've loved reading over your bio and how you describe in it that you actually feel like you're aging backwards. You're not getting older. You feel like you're getting younger. And I'm so intrigued with your story. I want to learn more about it, and I'd love for listeners to learn more about your story and tell us a little bit about your journey and how you've gotten to this point of healing.
Yeah. I would love to tell my story. And that aging backwards thing is a literal. That's, I feel like I spent my 90s and my 20s, and now that I'm almost 50, I feel better than I did when I was 20 and 30. So it is possible to age backwards. I'm living proof of that. So part of my journey, I think this is really similar to most people who, like most of my colleagues in this type of profession, in this industry of intuitive healing and restorative medicine. I think that most of us have a similar story to this because we usually get into this line of work because we've spent so much of our lives where our clients are. For me personally, I spent 25 years struggling with all kinds of health challenges, from autoimmune illnesses to chronic pain to chronic fatigue to anxiety and depression, and just kind of lived in this brain fog for so many years, just trying to cope. And I spiraled around in that very dark black hole for a really long time. And that's a lonely place to live your life because you feel like nobody else understands me, nobody else knows what I'm going through, and my family just thinks I'm lazy, And so that was a frustrating time. And it wasn't that I didn't know enough. Like, I had been studying and searching and struggling to find the answers to help me get well for a long time, and I knew a lot. Like, I knew a lot about herbs and diet, nutrition, and all of that, but I just could not seem to get lasting results. It was really a frustration for me and for my family, and now that I look back on that, I think that was by divine design, because had I gotten the results I was looking for with the first thing that I tried, I never would have kept searching and digging deeper and learning. So after about 20 years of this battle, I experienced total adrenal failure, where I left my body for a time, and I made a really interesting discovery in that experience. And the discovery was this. Well, I was in a park, first of all, working out with a group of women from my church, and they were absolutely freaking out because their experience was not the same experience I was having. I spent a little bit of time panicking for a moment, and then the panic just flipped over into peace, and I had an opportunity to kind of get some perspective. And I looked back at my lifeless, inanimate, shut-down body on the ground, and people are trying to revive it and all of that. And I remember thinking, why is everybody so stressed out? Like, I just couldn't comprehend why they were freaking out like that. And then I made the second discovery, which was I thought I was that body. So, I had to do a double take, and I went, wait a minute. If I'm not that body, because that body's shut down, then what is this that I'm experiencing right now? What am I going through? And for a really brief little moment in that time space, I was allowed to witness my own divinity. And I noticed that in this part of myself, it just felt like this infinite, eternal, amazing, blissful me that I'd never experienced before. But I noticed that in this part of myself, there was no sickness, and there was no struggle, and there was no panic, and no stress and no worries, no threat. It was just absolute peace and light and total clarity. I don't think I'd ever had clarity like that before. And just these unlimited amounts of power. And I did not know that that was available to me before that experience. I didn't realize that I had access to that. And so after that experience, in the years to come, I started really digging and searching and learning what that was. Like, who was that? Who am I? And for me, personally, that was the missing piece to the puzzle for myself. And so I began making these connections as to why is this such a critical piece in spontaneous healing for so many people? And in that discovery time, I learned three things. And the first thing that I learned was that all healing is a restoration of truth. That's all it ever is. It's basically seeing who you really are, and where you came from, and where you're headed. And then the second thing I learned from that experience was that the farther away from your authentic self, your authentic soul self that you wander, the sicker, the fatter, the more depressed, the more powerless you become. And then the third thing that I came away from that experience with was that every thought and feeling and emotion and belief that you have about yourself has biological consequences. So many of the illnesses that women and men really experience are intimately connected to the way that we feel about ourselves and the way that we see ourselves. And for me, being able to catch a glimpse of my, I don't know what to call it, like my infinite self, I guess, my divinity, that was the ticket for me. I mean, after having that and learning how to re-tap in without having to exit my body to get there was what completely resolved all of these health challenges for me permanently. And so I don't deal with autoimmune illness anymore, and I don't have chronic migraines, and I don't have those problems that I was dealing with in that time. And it's interesting, you know, I'm currently coaching some women on how to release weight from their bodies, and I've told them several times, when you look in the mirror and you don't like what you see, you don't have good feelings about yourself, then you're just perpetuating the problem. I mean, that's where
Right.
the problem really, it's the good feelings that when those good feelings dip down, then your metabolism starts to dip down and all of the other bodily functions that keep you healthy and well. And it's the same for autoimmune illnesses. Like, an autoimmune illness is just an inner battle that's going on. There's some kind of an inner conflict that you have with yourself, and so your body says, oh, we're at war with ourselves? Okay. So then the immune system attacks you.
That's such an amazing story you have, Janet. It reminds me of some of those near-death experiences that you hear about where like your soul or spirit actually leaves your body, and I can't even imagine what that was like. But what you're saying, I know to be true, in that, you know, so many of us go through emotional traumas or different things in our life that cause us to question who we are. I think I know for me, it caused me to question my self-worth. It caused me to question so many things. And yet I thought I was dealing with it. Okay. I thought I was handling it by sticking it on a shelf and almost pretending like it didn't happen and moving on and living the best life I could. But I think so many people think they're being strong in doing that, but they don't realize the importance of actually looking at it. If you had a traumatic experience, you get to deal with it. You get to make things right. You get to really look at maybe the damage that it caused, because it's those, like you said, it's those thoughts that and the emotional trauma that is undealt with that then will create illness in our body. And I see so many people just try to power through, and then they don't know why they have constant migraines or, you know, all of these autoimmune conditions and stuff.
And
so
the answer
I love
to it is to come back inside. I mean, the ultimate answer to all of your problems is to just go back inside and reconnect with who you really are and what is really true. You start.
And I know for me,
Right.
Janet, when I was listening to your story and you were just speaking about all of those things that contribute to illness, back 4 years ago when I was having so many health problems, I was also having problems in lots of areas of my life that led up to that. And I truly believe that they're all interconnected. Like if I'm having struggles in my relationship and I'm experiencing a lot of anger and resentment, and then I'm taking on limiting beliefs about myself, and like you said, I'm falling away further from my divinity and my worth and who I am, I feel like it's all interconnected. And that's when you see people who start experiencing more disease within their body, is when they've disconnected, because they're full of anger, they're full of resentment, they're sad, they're frustrated, whatever that may be. I feel like when our spirit has lost that connection to the divinity, to God, that it contributes to disease within the body.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that I've witnessed as I've worked with other people is that illness can be attached to 4 different things. Disconnects. Number 1 is a disconnect from God. Number 2 is a disconnect from yourself. Number 3 is a disconnect from other people. And then 4 is a disconnect from truth. So if you're disconnected in any way from that kind of stuff, it's going to make you sick. It has biological consequences because your body's just basically trying to get your attention and show you where you've been yanked off course,
Yeah. Hey, so Janet, we are going to go to break in a couple minutes, but in the meantime, I know you have 6 reasons why we get sick and why we have illnesses, and I'm wondering if we might be able to cover a couple of those before break. Can you give us?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. Let's just kind of get started. Maybe say number 1 and be able to let our listeners know in case they're jotting down notes or kind of taking note of what those 6 things are.
Absolutely. And I will put the link up to this in my private Facebook group so anybody can go grab it if they want it. But number 1 is beliefs, perceptions, judgments, exactly what we've been talking about. Any kind of a disconnect like that will block us from our truth. It'll block us from ultimate truth and ultimately block you from your own personal power. And each of us is way more powerful than we've ever been led to believe. And I learned that by being pushed to the outer edges, outer limits, I guess, of who I really was. And by popping out of the body and having that brush with death, it was a blessing to me, because after having that experience, I came away from that just looking at the whole world from a totally different vantage point. It was almost like someone put on a different set of glasses for me. And it changed the way that I have beliefs and perceptions and judgments. And so those kinds of things can and will and do make you sick. Let's go on to number 2. I don't want to go too deep into this, but number 2 is, second reason why we tend to get sick is because laws of health have been violated. And there's hundreds of laws of health. I'm currently writing a book right now called Restore, and I list 25 of different laws of health that, to the degree that you're willing to align with these laws of health, will be to the same degree that you will experience vitality. And part of that is gaining self-awareness of who you are, what you came here to do. Number 3
That's awesome.
is oftentimes we deny our own divinity. We've forgotten who we are. Do we have time for one more?
Sure.
We do, so. Unless you want to elaborate a little bit more, we can save 3 for either way.
Let me share with you number 4. This one is a really common one. A lot of people use the word empath a lot, but if you are a person who has a tendency to be sensitive to other people's vibes and their energy or their emotional state, sometimes you can pick up on that and make that energy your own. So, like if you hang around negative people or depressed people a lot, oftentimes what will happen if you're not really aware of what's going on and you're not in charge of what's going on, you can adopt those energies from other people. So that's the 4th reason, is sometimes you can adopt these vibes from others, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's yours. You've just kind of mindlessly picked up on energies that don't belong to you.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. I think we're going to head to break really quickly, and then we'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
Now, back to the show.
Hey, it's Jennifer Buss. We're back with Janet Thurgood today as our guest. and she's been teaching us some really awesome things. She's got a list of 6 reasons why we develop illnesses or sicknesses or different health issues in our life. And Jana, if you wouldn't mind, maybe just a quick bullet point of 1, 2, 3, 4, which we went over before the break, and then let us know what number 5 and 6 are.
Yeah, sure. We'll do a recap. So number one cause of illness can be either your beliefs, your perceptions, your attitudes, or your judgments. Sometimes that stuff can block you from truth and your own personal power, and that stuff can make you sick. Number 2, laws of health have been violated, and there's a ton of different laws of health. There's lots and lots of different laws of health, but the ones that we know that are the most common are what you put into and onto your body and how much you move your body. Number 3 is oftentimes we start to deny our own divinity and our own personal power. That stuff has biological consequences as well and can make you sick. Number 4, sometimes as empathic people, if you're really sensitive to the emotions and energies of other people around you, sometimes you can adopt the vibes that you're picking up on from other people. And so there are definitely tools and ways that you can prevent yourself from doing that, or just to become more aware that you are doing it so that you in turn stop doing that and then can move back onto your path of healing. Number 5 is sometimes we get sick because, and I know this was true for me, sometimes we get sick because there's divine learning in it. There's a purpose to it. I know that I kept getting, my illnesses kept recurring and kept coming back, even though I was living in alignment with as many laws of health as I knew that I possibly could. My problems and struggles kept returning, and I think it was because my soul had an agenda, and that was to continue learning. And so if the soul, all of our souls, come here with an agenda, it knows exactly what it wants to learn and the direction that it wants to grow in. And so you're going to be pulled in that direction by divine design. And so sometimes that's why we're sick. That's why we have challenges and struggles, is because we came here for that. And
Jenna,
I do believe that now.
I was going to say, I love that. I got chills when you said that. I love that, that's an awesome perspective to have.
Yeah.
Well, and you wouldn't be able to help all of the people that you've helped without having to go through those struggles. And so you can definitely see that it was by divine design that you had to go through those struggles so that you can help teach individuals how to get through them themselves. So
yeah. Yeah, I hit rock bottom a few times actually in those 25 years because I just kept thinking, I'm not even living, I have no quality of life here. I'm not really living a life. Why would God make me go through something like this only to, I'm being so held back by my body. I felt like a prisoner in my body. And now I look back on that and I'm so grateful that I went through that, because our greatest challenges oftentimes are our greatest teachers. And what I learned and what I gained from that and the perspectives that I got from it, I would never, ever, ever want to give those things back. And I would gladly go through that 25-year uphill battle again to get that learning. So
that's a long time to be sick.
It is a long time to be sick. And I was suicidal for a little bit there because I just wanted to end it. I just wanted it to be over. Now I'm grateful that I had that experience. It gives me empathy. It helps me to understand what my clients are going through, and so that I can help, and so that I can now contribute in a really powerful way. I have something to give. And you know what? All of us want to feel like we have something of value to contribute. Humanity,
what pulled you through
society.
What pulled you through those times, Janet, when you were to that state of suicide? What got you through those times when you were at your lowest? What helped you through?
Well, I would have to say my faith did that. And again, that's, your connection to God, your connection to yourself, your connection to truth and others. So, thankfully, I didn't get disconnected from all of those things, or I probably would have tried to end it. It's a really hopeless place to be when you feel like it's always going to be an uphill battle and there's no way out,
Yeah, I was sick for a couple of years, and there were times that I felt like, gosh, I don't know if I can keep going on. So to think of being sick for 25 years, it's just mind-boggling how you remained sane and in a state of hope, and that you were able to keep going even though you had experienced it for so long.
Yeah. Well, let me share with you number 6, the sixth cause of illness, and I'm sure there might be more, but these are the ones that I have found seem most relevant to the people that I work with. Sometimes illness comes to people as an assignment or a way to leave this mortal journey. And I have witnessed that too. Oftentimes when you work with a client in efforts to help them heal, and you're helping them to align with laws of health, and you're clearing and releasing old patterns and beliefs and stuff, and you think that they're going to improve, then they don't, and they actually pass. What that means is that illness was their ticket into the next dimension. It was a part of their journey. So death actually is the healing in some cases like that. And so it's not necessarily that these tools and these, modalities of healing don't work in those instances. It just means that person had a divine destiny, and this was a part of it. I coached a woman one time who, her 14-year-old daughter died of cancer, and she was just beside herself with the grieving process, and they had spent their life savings to try to save this little girl's life, and they invested in all kinds of healing modalities for her. And she finally passed away, and the daughter came to her in a dream not too long after she passed and said, "Mommy, I'm just fine. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And my job now is helping other terminally ill children cross over so they don't have to be afraid." And her mother said, this woman said, that was all I needed to hear. I needed to know there was some purpose in it, so that it wasn't just all for nothing. All this stuff that we tried just didn't work. She said, I knew at that point it wasn't about that. It was that this was by divine design. And so that's my last and sixth cause of illness. Sometimes it's just a part of the plan.
Wow. Definitely. I love that story, to know that like everybody has a mission, everybody has a purpose, and sometimes it is hard for us to understand, especially if we are left behind by loved ones and different things to totally understand. So I love that perspective as well. So Janet, I know that you like to teach about how we can change our biology without using drugs or having surgeries or anything like that. So I'm eager to hear what you have for us regarding that.
Oh my gosh, well, I'm eager to share. I could talk for hours about just this part alone, because it's such a powerful technology that we have available to us right now that it blows my mind how powerful we are. And we're way more powerful than we've ever been led to believe by our culture and by the Western medical model. No offense to them. They do a great work. However, we've been taught that we're all victims, and we aren't. We have so much more access to power. Years ago, I started following a gentleman by the name of Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he was a cellular biologist at Stanford University, and he wrote several books. One of the books that I love from him is called The Biology of Belief, and in that book, he talks about, he was a professor at the university, and he sat on the Human Genome Project, where they were commissioned to study cells and genes and genetics and how that all plays in with illness and disease. And he said what they discovered is that, he said, you can actually change the function and the purpose of a cell just by changing its environment. And when you change a cell's environment, you change the way that cell perceives. And he said, we are no different than ourselves, because we as physical beings are made up of 50 trillion cells ourselves. We're just a bigger community of that tiny little unit. And he said, what he concluded was, we are the same as that. Your body is this community of cells, and your biology can be affected and changed. The purpose of your biology can change based on the way you perceive your environment. And so what he said was, if you're perceiving your environment as if it's a hostile environment, or you're under attack, or there's a threat, your body's going to go into fight or flight mode, and you'll be exhausted, right? Anyway, there's some powerful scientific study that can back all of that he says about that, but that really got me thinking. And the other person that I started following was Greg Braden, and he also talks a lot about how sometimes our beliefs and our attitudes and our values can affect our very DNA. He showcases a study that was done by the Heart Math Institute. I think they're out of Colorado, but this study, what they did was they took DNA and they put it into a petri dish, and then they also had people standing in the presence of this DNA, and they were trained, the subjects were trained in heart-based genuine emotion was what they called it. So they were trained to express and experience these feelings, high positive feelings in their bodies like love and joy and gratitude, and have these emotions. And as these individuals did that and they started to produce these emotions in their body, it began to relax the strands of DNA. And the strands began to unwind just like they do before they replicate and heal to create a new version of the cell, right? Or a new version of the DNA. And what they concluded at the end of this study was that even the negative feelings, so when they were programmed and they taught these people how to have negative emotions like anger and fear and hate and shame and all of those things, it had the opposite effect on the DNA. The DNA actually wound up really tight in that helix formation, like, what do they call it? It compressed itself, I guess, and restricted it and wound itself up. And so what they determined was you put yourself in a state of healing when you have those high elevated feelings, and you deny life within you by shutting that healing process down when you have negative emotions and feelings going on in your body. So the way that you perceive and feel about your life and your experiences will either affirm life in your cells or deny life. It'll either make you sick or it'll elevate you and cause a spontaneous healing process to take place. Your body is wired to heal itself.
I love how that can empower individuals to know that they do have control in their life and their circumstances, that just by changing their perception and how they view life and to look for the goodness and the beauty, that can actually create that healing in their body. And I know firsthand, I've experienced that for myself. I've been really low lows where I looked at everything from a negative viewpoint and I felt sorry for myself. And since shifting that mindset, one, I feel a heck of a lot better than I used to, and two, my health has improved.
Yeah, right.
What I love is
people who have done studies on, like, laughing studies, or just go outside and lay in the sun studies, where their health actually improved spontaneously just by engaging in something that elevated them and made them feel happy and joyful and good. So it's pretty powerful.
Right.
All of this stuff has biological consequences to it. And, your body is hardwired to spontaneously heal itself. If you think about, if you're in your kitchen and you cut yourself with a knife, your body will form a scab and mend and bring the flesh together and heal that wound. You don't have to put the coagulants there and the platelets and the oxygen. Your body's doing it spontaneously. And so when you put yourself in this high energy, good feelings, you're actually stepping into spontaneous healing.
I love that. And I love, we learn about the power of mindset, positivity, all of those kind of things. But I love that there's a biology behind it, especially for those who are more concrete learners who need the evidence, who need the it's there. There's evidence, there's proof, there's the biological ways that power of the mindset really does have on us, and that positivity really can do. But I know, we've all kind of been in that low part of our life where when you're consumed by the illness and you're consumed by all of this stuff, and it's hard to find that positivity. Like, it's hard to say, okay, the answer is just be happy. how do you get from that point to that point where you can step out of that? You know what I'm saying? Like knowing the science behind it, like how do I get from my lowest of lows to I need to start turning things around to shift things biologically?
And I think honestly, that just takes time. I think that takes time, and you have to be very conscious and put effort into it on a daily basis. And then it becomes habit.
I love that question. I love it because it is at the root of what I do in my coaching practice, is that you can't do this from a mental perspective. You have to pop in and tap in to your divinity to do it, because then your body will do it spontaneously. It's not something that you have to physically think about or do. You just have to come into alignment. And so that's, if we have time on this show, I really want to take people through a process where they can learn how to tap in and tune in and come into alignment with their own divinity so that they can step into that natural, spontaneous healing process. It's not something that happens through your brain. It's not something that you control with your mind at all. It's not. You got to get out of your head and you have to get into your body. And the funny thing is, you know, I learned this by popping out of my body. But the interesting thing about that is that now I teach it to other people by helping them pop into their body.
Jana, are you referring to the final piece that you wanted to cover on the show? Is that kind of the same thing that you're referring to right now?
Yeah. Do we have time to do that?
Awesome. Well, we're actually ready to head into our second break, but we'll let you wrap some things up in that third segment as we come back before we let you go. So yeah, let's. Okay. I'm excited.
Now, back to the show.
Hey everyone, so excited to be back with Jen and Janet, and so excited for this last portion of our show today. Excited to have Janet walk us through this process of how we can access the deeper spiritual parts of ourselves to help create healing in our life. So Janet, I'm just going to hand it over to you.
Thanks. I'm going to share with you guys a little story, something that happened to me just this past year. A lot of my followers know my mother passed away in September, and about a month after she died, she passed away of cancer, and so her poor body had been through so much. And, you know, when you lose somebody and that's the last mental image that you have of them, it's kind of disturbing, and it's hard to let that go, you know, and see them for who they are. And about a month after this experience, she came to me in a dream, and she stood at the foot of my bed, and she showed me herself in that, I don't know how to describe it, but in that glorified divine self. I know that sometimes when people come to you, when they come back from the other side and you have visitation, sometimes they can show themselves to you the way that you remember them. But she didn't do that. She showed me her divinity. And I just remember she didn't say anything. She just stood at the foot of my bed and held her arms out, and she just went, "Look." And so I looked at her, and I just was blown away by how glorious and beautiful and just luminous. I don't even know, there aren't words to describe. It just took my breath away to see her that way, and I knew it was her. The only way that I knew it was her was because I could tell by her presence, and I could see it in her eyes. But I was just like, Mom? I couldn't believe how beautiful and magnificent she was. And I believe that she was just showing me who she really was. And after I had that experience, I thought to myself, you know, I wonder if she saw it. I wonder if through the course of her lifetime, she got to witness that, because it was amazing, very empowering. And I don't know that she did ever get to see that part of herself or that side of herself when she lived here. And to me, that's a tragedy, that people, they deny their own divinity like that. And so I want to take you guys through a process where you can tap into that part of yourself anytime, no matter what. When I first got started as a quantum healing practitioner, I worked mostly with hundreds and hundreds of cases of anxiety and depression. And what I learned about these people, mostly women, was that they'd been yanked so far out of their center, so far off of that soul path and out of their soul self that they had forgotten who they were. They had no idea who they were anymore at that point in their lives, and it was causing all of this distress in their physical body. So the first thing that I want you guys to do, you can follow along if you're listening, is like the way I learned it was I had to pop out of my body to see it. But I want you guys to pop into your body. And the best way to do this, we can learn this through martial arts and through yoga, is to center yourself. So what I want you to do right now is just kind of soften your body and breathe a little bit. Take in some deep breaths. And then take all of your attention and all of your awareness and just go inside your body for a moment. So almost like if there was an imaginary line going from the top of your head down to the base of the spine or down the legs and out the feet, that line is your midline. It's your center. So all I want you to do is put your awareness inside your body and think about that line and breathe. So now breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And you can figure out what pace you need to breathe at. Just make it comfortable and use that exhale to just drop your shoulders, relax your face, and get inside your body. And just breathe in and out. Use the exhale to soften all your muscles and empty the body of emotion and tension. Exhale it right out of the feet. But hold your awareness inside of your body. You're probably noticing that you feel different. Just the minute you take your attention and go inside your body and get in there, you feel different. It feels more, give me adjectives, ladies, Des and Jen. What does it feel like to you when you breathe and soften and get inside?
Peaceful.
Peaceful. What else?
Calm.
Calm. Yeah. Yeah. Every single time you get into your body like that, you're never going to feel alarm or attack. You feel those things when you pop out of the body, when your awareness and your attention is somewhere else. But you put your attention back in on your own divinity in the center of you, the deeper levels of your being, and it's almost like your higher self's in there going, hey, hi, I'm in here. I'm just peace. I'm love. There's no threat to an infinite, eternal being. They can't run out of time. There is no threat to them because they can't be destroyed. They can't die.
I was gonna say present as well.
Yeah, present. So basically you're tapping into your own presence. What does that feel like? I want you to keep doing it. Keep breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, holding attention inside of your body, somewhere on that center. Actually, if you could drop down to the base of the spine, that's the Kundalini point. It's actually, in that religion, it's considered a sacred portal between spirit and flesh. So holding awareness at the base of the spine and breathing and softening is what you're going to do. That's called being centered. And the second part of that is expanded. So all I want you to do, we're going to look for the feeling of expansion. So get into your center again. Think about that line. And instead of it being a little beam of light, it becomes the sun. Almost like you stepped into the center of the sun, and the sun stepped into the center of you, and tendrils of light, billions of them, go out from your body in every direction, out into infinity, above you, below you, in front of you, behind you. As you breathe out now, this time use the exhale to expand out from your center. Keep doing that. Next, I'm going to take you guys on a journey into the heart, and I want you to think about one thing that you're grateful for, that you love. One thing that you're grateful. It could be a puppy. It could be your grandchild. It could be your child. one thing that you love, and feel that gratitude in your body. Just amplify it with every breath. Expand it out just like that light that we stepped into, the sun that's in the center of you. Expand that gratitude, and can you feel it more and more? And next, what I want you to do is let go of all of the disapproval that you have of yourself and breathe that out of the body. Just let it go. Let go of all the disapproval and let go some more. And now, I want you guys, those of you who are listening, Des and Jen and me, I'm going to say it too. I want you to say out loud, I am enough. I
am
enough.
Good. And you can just keep that phrase going on autopilot inside of your body. I'm enough. I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm enough. And notice how good that feels. Give me some adjectives. What does that feel like?
Empowering.
Empowered. Yes. Good job.
Fulfilling.
So do you know what's happening to you?
We're connecting.
You're tapping into your essence. You're tapping into that empowered you that is divine and infinite and eternal and non-limited. And that's what it feels like. So these good feelings that you have of peace and love and empowerment, those feelings are you. That's who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You're feeling it. So the last thing that I would have you do, I don't think we have time to do it today, but the last thing that I would have you do, and for those of you listening, go and do this as homework, is get back into that centered place, get into that empowered feeling again, expand it out, and I want you to pretend that if you stepped into the center of your heart, inside of the center of your being, and somebody wheeled up a mirror and you got to look at your own self, just like I saw my mother standing at the foot of my bed. If you got to look at your own self, your highest self in the mirror, what would you see? And do this exercise. Come back to this recording and do it, but write down everything that comes up for you. Write down what you see. What are you wearing? What are your gifts and talents? What did you come here for? And it's really one of the most empowering experiences a human being will ever have. Everybody should know how awesome they are. Everybody.
Well, Janet, we have loved having you on our show today. You have been amazing at teaching us lots of things, and this exercise I love. Is that really quick? How would listeners get a hold of you before we let you go today? Because we are just about to wrap up our show. So, okay. Website, Facebook page?
They can go to janetthurgood.com. I also have a Facebook group called Intuitive Healing Through Soul Self-Restoration. And if they just do a search for that group, enter the group, all this information is in there. There's handouts and videos and all kinds of stuff that you can learn from me for free.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, and thanks for gifting those to our viewers, our listeners, for free. And yeah, check her out. Follow up with her if you've enjoyed this show. She's been amazing and powerful. And thank you again for being on.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, everybody, I'm back. I hope you really enjoyed this free training presentation. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. And I hope it really caused you to think a little bit more closely about who you are and what you are capable of having, being, and doing in your life. Nothing really should stand in the way of that. Now I want to offer you a really unique opportunity, and that opportunity is to work with me closely one-on-one. Like I said in the presentation, one of my gifts and my talents is it's really easy for me to look into the soul of others and to see beyond the physical mortal crust of your body and to see your divinity. And that's what I feel like I'm here to help people do, is to tap into that for the purpose of intuitive healing, spontaneous healing, restorative medicine. I spent my whole life, almost 30 years, and then some, studying the concepts and the laws of spontaneous healing. And so I have a lot to offer and a lot to share with you personally. If you are somebody who has been struggling and you're just done, and it's beyond time to get this resolved so that you can move on with your life and do what you came here to do, then click the button below. When you do that, it will take you to a schedule page where you can enter yourself onto my daily schedule. I have set aside some small pockets of time through the coming weeks where I will be visiting with you guys more one-on-one. So if you feel compelled and inspired and encouraged to jump on a call with me, the call is free. It lasts only about 30 minutes, and it will help you to get a little bit more clarity as to what this is about, whether or not it's for you, and what that process would entail and look like. Jump on the call with me. We'll get all your questions figured out, and I'll see you soon.